Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for Tower of God chapter 420 or season 3 episode 3. So, I loved it again. I thought it was hilarious and I thought it was really good. And I actually have a friggin' ton of notes that I took while going back over it a few times. But at the same time, I feel like we got a lot of info dump stuff and what happened was really funny. But at the same time, I feel like there's not as much discussion to be had, where before it was like we're introduced to these things that bring up a lot of questions and we got to discuss them a bit to see where we think things might go. Where with this we just got a bunch of answers and information, which was cool, but at the same time it's like, I don't know, there's not exactly as much to really guess about for the future. We got more answers than we did questions this time around. But yeah, let's start talking about it from the beginning. After an elongated recap scene kind of thing that we do where we see the last sort of scene of the last chapter in the beginning of this one, that was kind of elongated this week, but after that we have Ship, Hatsu, and a fluffy dwarf setting off. And then we take a quick flashback to see that, of course, it's not going to be super simple, but I did like that it was all self-contained in one chapter, so we kind of got the best of both worlds there. But Yoon is an idiot and I love it. It's such a good character quirk having them just be so absent-minded and naive. But Yoon lost their power, and we get a bit of a backstory about how he saved a Kun family member. We knew that before. It turned out to be one of his teammates that he was climbing the tower with, and they ended up becoming best friends. So he realized that rather than what the Yeon family typically does, which is stomp around the tower, burning shit up with their flames and being sort of an attack style combatant, his flame wasn't meant to burn people up, his flame was meant to rescue. So he joined Wal Haeksong and traveled all around the tower helping those in need. And in this particular area, only outcast tribes live and there's no sort of real set system. So the Kokums were the strongest tribe, and they were total assholes. They killed all the Dwoni except one, and kept the one living member of the race, Devi, as a slave, and that's fucking horrible. I don't feel sorry for the Kokum at all. They're assholes. So he gave his flame to Devi in the form of a hammer after seeing what Devi was going through. And of course, now this person who's been entirely just persecuted and his life has been made a living hell now has all kinds of power. So he uses that to go and slaughter all of these tribes and races of people that were around here, except for the fluffy dwarves, which he liked, and and a few of the Kokums have survived, and that's the people who talk in the weird language that isn't translated by the pockets. So then what else? Oh yeah, he mentions that Devi wouldn't give the hammer back, so yeah, I'm kind of screwed now. I don't have my powers. And it's explained by Evan by saying, and it kind of makes sense given what you would think of the psychology of being an immortal, or basically an immortal, that sometimes people in the tower just live so long that they basically end up being like kids again because they've lived so long. And psychologically, that actually kind of makes sense in a way. Then he also reveals that, oh yeah, you can't just steal the hammer because I put a curse on anyone who steals it. It's so good. I love how Woon Yan is just a dipshit. It's amazing. I love he's just so absent-minded. It's brilliant. But Ship then uses the dwarf to trick Devi, and it's hilarious. It's brilliant. I love the over-dramatic acting of the fluffy dwarf. It's amazing. And I love, again, Ship's psychological profiling of Devi afterward, where he was like, being weak or poor and sort of looked down on and picked apart and oppressed, that leaves a person scarred. And so a person who's been oppressed for being weak is then, if they have power, likely to be oppressive over people who are weaker than them. But at the end of the day, if they're reminded of the weakness they once have, they might want to help those people who were weak like they once were. And he just figured that that's the reason the trick would work, because though Devi, when left alone with time to think of it, might be mad at his decision, at the time he would want to help the dwarf. So, yeah, all makes sense. So little Yoon, who is the fluffy dwarf, and I love the, just the Rack reaction in the background, little Yoon. Little Yoon wakes up Kun, and of course after he wakes him up, Woon Yeon's like, oh yeah, there might be side effects from him waking up. It'll probably be fine, but we had to wake him up anyway, am I right? So again, just a great character. I love the, just the quirks in the character, so good. Then we find out that Rack told Kun everything that was going on. Ship and Kun talk about how Bomb's going to look for and recruit Yama. And here is the point in my notes where I have to mention line is shit. Now I say all the time, I really think it's important to support the official translation because that supports CU, and that's super important. But at the same time, I think we can be critical about how damn consistently bad the translation is. The translation is consistently very bad. Now, I've made a lot of excuses in the past. Like, I think the translators are probably having to it's probably like a few people that have to translate a lot of stuff. So that's probably, again, part of the reason for it. But there are some things that could always be changed and fixed by just going through and doing a just sort of read over and fact check just like once. I don't know if fact check is the right way to do it. Spell check definitely for sure. But the Bay Load stuff is really, really stupid because we know for certain that it's Baylord Yama. It's been written out in sort of Roman characters, the Roman alphabet, Baylord Yama. So we know that that's his name, and the place is the Bay Road. So the Bay Load stuff is dumb and all, but especially going back and rereading, there are just so many instances of inconsistencies with names being translated, and just really awkward wording, terrible spelling and grammar. Into this chapter, that happens a lot. And something that's been happening in the past few weeks, or past few months, I guess, even, there have been panels that I've had to bring up in my reviews because you've all have told me about them. There have been panels missing, not super often, but every couple chapters here and there lately it feels like there are panels missing. And in particular this week, the panels missing were really friggin' important. Because we should have learned, and I didn't in my live reaction, we should have learned that Calavan lost his position and is guarding Ha Jinsung. Because we see the picture of this guy while they're talking about Yama, so I'm like, is that Yama in the reaction? But no, it's Calavan looking all sad boy, because he has to guard Jinsung now and he lost his position as squadron commander. So, yeah, it was incredibly important and it was left out, so just informing you, if you've only read the thing once like I had. So, yeah, the line just is a mess. It's a mess that we have to deal with because it helps support CU, but damn is it a mess. And that's another thing, like, why add the extra work of the preview service in Korea and the Fast Pass here in English? Why add that extra work on everybody if they can't even get the actual translation released right? Like, I don't want to say get it released right half the time, because more often than half the time, basically every single chapter, there's some sort of spelling or grammar mistakes that you just have to overlook. And this is for an official release. It's not like a fan translation or anything, so it's just, line is pretty ridiculous. But either way, I'll get off of that soapbox. Then they start talking about how a kid like a mini Yama went missing, and they were from a powerful bloodline, and Bomb is off looking for his teammate. So of course that brings us into what's going on with Louis and Dang Dang. So going back to Bomb's group, Lulu protects Bongso, and her protecting him, if Bomb decided to attack, he could have killed them anyway, because she was just like, I'm going to take the chance of you not killing me. You always could though, but I'm just going to hope you won't. So it was hilarious, it was all good, and she's doing it for the promotion. But Bomb runs away to Hockney and Elaine, who were the ones with him, and there might be other members of their team with them, but it looks, at least right now, that Bomb was only traveling with Hockney and Elaine. So they say to Louis that they're trying to bring Dang Dang back to his father in exchange for Yama's help. But Louis gives some context to that by explaining that they were born on Yama's ship known as Cage, or at least I think that's what it is. It's like his big castle ship, and it's known as Cage. Dang Dang is the son of the second-in-command Gado, and is super powerful because he's from a powerful bloodline, and that goes into what I was saying with him being... It doesn't seem, because they said he isn't a fighting dog, yet at least, so that would make me think, okay, he isn't the third mad dog, because they were all fighting dogs already. But that means that, yeah, he, after all the breeding going on in this place, he was bred particularly powerful. He ended up that way, and so from his birth, he was given sort of a noble position in the cage, whereas though they were born at the same time, Louis was given to him as a servant at birth because he was just born weaker from their blood fusion breeding, whatever. So either way, they both become Dang Dang ends up standing up for Louis as sort of an equal friend, even though he's a servant. So of course that shows us that Dang Dang seems like a really, really good person. They both end up becoming regulars. They meet back up on the tower and climb together. And Dang Dang is powerful, so he basically carries the team. But then he got caught letting Louis escape. And because of that, Louis knows he's probably going to be getting sent to the arenas. Arena winners become fighting dogs, and once they become fighting dogs, that means they're sort of part of Yama's group for forever. And Dang Dang would rather just live his life losing again and again in the arena, rather than win and be trapped as a servant to Yama. So I like this, that we're getting sort of the Bay Road arc pretty much. But we're getting more into that sort of system. So that's really, really good. But Snake Guy shows up, and he shows up trying to capture Bomb or whatever, and hopefully he's not a jobber. Here's the thing. The last time we saw somebody really, really interested in picking a fight, they were Cool Nasam K, mega jobber. Last time we saw somebody from the Snake Guy's group, it was Levy, mega jobber. So hopefully this Snake Guy isn't a total and complete pushover as well. Especially given that they have probably, I guess, had Yuan Danhua trapped for like 2 years pretty much. But yeah, either way. So I like again that they mention he's not a fighting dog because he's being sent there and hasn't won in the arena yet. And we know that the 3 Mad Dogs of Yama were people that were fighting dogs who were sent down to climb the tower in order to prove Yama's strength by showing these are the people he has raised from his blood fusion methods. So that means that Elliot and Vargarv had already fought their way up and become fighting dogs by winning in the arena enough. So yeah, there's nothing really at all important in the blog to bring up, except maybe the closest thing to being somewhat important is that Siu was like, I kind of went back and forth on whether I wanted to do Kun waking up in one chapter or not, and I just went ahead and got it over with. So yeah, that's probably the most important thing, but the blog really didn't have much this time around. So chapter as a whole though, I thought it was really funny. I love the fluffy dwarf. Little Yoon is hilarious. I love it. And I really feel for Devi. I'm kind of on Devi's side with this. Sure, what he did was probably wrong, but at the end of the day, it's like the Cocoon slaughtered his entire race and kept him as a slave. So then when he goes and tries to slaughter all them, you're kind of like, I get it. I kind of get it, Devi. I mean, that might, like, revenge is probably not the nobler way to go with things, but at the same time they slaughtered his entire race, which had to have included his family, and then kept him as a slave. So yeah, I don't know. It's sort of justified. And hype for Dang Dang. Dang Dang seems like a cool character. Now they did get captured, and I'm like, Bomb kind of destroyed all these combat dogs, so Dang Dang getting captured makes me feel like he's less strong, but we don't know the difference in strength of the people that were chasing them or anything like that. And the fact that he is from a powerful bloodline and that he basically carried Louis' team, I'm interested in seeing what kind of person they are, especially since they seem like a very nice person. But the thing is, that kind of leaves Bomb in kind of a screwy place, because he's going to want to help Dang Dang, he's going to want to help Louie, but at the same time he also needs Yama's help. So it's going to be one of those interesting things where Bomb is going to need to face a moral conundrum, and we know this arc is still going to go on because we haven't seen enough of Lulu, and she just seems like she's going to end up being a character that helps them out in the future. So we still got a lot that's probably going to go on during this arc with the dog shelter and everything. That, and I think that Bomb is going to carry on fighting with this arc and go through the Bay Road arc stuff, and then we have Ship and Kuhn's group, who is going to show up for the save at some point. And we haven't seen Wagnan's group yet in a while either, so we still need to know what they're doing. But yeah, guess that's it. I enjoyed it, I loved it, and I would give it a 9 out of 10. 9, I don't know, fluffy dwarves out of 10. I really enjoyed it, and hope you did too. Like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of my thoughts on this chapter, anything like that, what you thought of the chapter. Follow on Twitter, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord about this series or anything else, then just ask and I can give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.